Okay, so we've got a great afternoon. I'm super excited. I really am. Can you pop my slide on? Get rid of that. That's horrible. That's better. Welcome back. So I'm just going to do a really short intro, and then we're going to move into a little video, and then we're going to introduce Hasten, which I'm so excited about. I had dinner with her last night, amongst others, and the amount of ideas that were thrown into the middle of the table were huge. The amount of possibility and opportunity was just incredible. So a few years ago, about 15, I said this. I said, it's not sufficient to do things better. We need to do better things. And I mean that. I mean that. Our processes need to change, but also the things that we make. And it isn't, you don't buy clothes because you need clothes. You buy clothes because you need love. You buy clothes because you need to love yourself a little bit more. Everything we do starts here. This is a shortcut to avoid a midlife crisis, trust me. So spend time getting to know who you are. You all do yoga, right? It's 2022. It's compulsory, along with drinking kale, carving spoons, listening to the Stone Roses. You all do yoga, don't you? Fucking hell, are you serious? Hands up if you don't do yoga. What is wrong with you? It's magic. It is magic, truly is magic. But I said this, and I think it's really important. And we heard from Frederick earlier, and I really enjoyed that talk. We heard about this whole kind of wearing our cares, wearing our concern where it's visible. I care. Look at me. I wear the trainers with the V on them, which are actually worse than the trainers without the V on them, but more of that another time. And I think it's really important that we admire and we live by values, not totems. We use things as a shorthand way of saying we care. And actually, we need to just live differently. I've got a phrase, don't tell me you're funny, make me laugh. And that's the truth. Because everything's changing, right? Disruption to our markets, to our health systems, normal. Change is inevitable. How it was done yesterday is not how it should be done today. Nothing stays the same, and neither should you. This place hasn't stayed the same. The problem comes when change happens and you don't. And you can hope that the world will come back to your way of thinking. It ain't. It's just not. You have to change. The thing is, whether you think you can change or whether you think you can't change, you're right. That's your mental set. That's your constraining belief. How many of you have come across an experiment called the Pike syndrome? I'm so glad you said no, so I can show you. The Pike syndrome was done in 1846 by a German zoologist called Carl Moebius. You know the name Moebius? From the Moebius loops, the recycling symbol. So Carl Moebius took a pike, aggressive prehistoric fish, a slight underbite. You know what a pike is? Similar word here, yeah? So he took a pike and he put it in a massive tank, probably as big as this stage. And in the tank was a pike, this big over here, lots of little fish over here. The pike charged at the little fish and ate them up. That's what they do. They eat little fish. They're carnivorous. Not great for the little fish. Moebius then lowered a big glass bell jar in, open at the top and open at the bottom. And he lowers it in, and the water fills the bell jar. And the open top sits above the bell jar, above the water. So now he's got a jar in a tank and a pike on the outside of the jar. He can then put into the middle of the jar, through the hole at the top, lots of little fish. They go in. The pike sees the little fish and charges at them. Smashes its nose, snout on the tank, on the jar. The little fish see the pike and get really scared. Then after a little while, the little fish realize they can't be eaten. So the little fish are now swimming around doing this. They were English. And the pike got really glum and sank to the bottom of the tank and just looked depressed. And after about half a day, Moebius then took a crane and lifted the bell jar out, put it on the side. And the little fish swam everywhere. Swam all along the front of the pike, all along the back of the pike. And what do you think the pike did? This is an interactive part of the day. There's going to be more of these later. The pike did nothing. Because the pike's limiting belief was that it couldn't eat the little fish. The little fish are delighted. If you don't move that Pike, and Mobius never did this because he was kind. If you leave that Pike in that tank, what happens? Pike starves to death. Starves to death surrounded by food. We go bankrupt surrounded by the most amazing business opportunities in the world. We sit at home lonely surrounded by people who want to be our friend. We sit in our business unable to attract the right talent because we're not asking the right people. We sit in our business looking at how much somebody else has changed and grown and how little we have. What is your bell jar? What is your limiting belief? If you take nothing else from this little section, think about that when you go home. Look, as we change, things are going to get really complex. Some people are going to come with us, some people aren't. That's fine. You are not for everybody. You are just for the sexy people. So focus on the sexy people. That's where you need to go. But we need to be really careful of friendly fire. So you've got your regenerative agriculturists, all about animal byproducts, all about using wool. Great. You've got your vegans. Oh, we don't really want wool. But they all want a safer world. And sometimes you've got to kind of look above that and say, actually, we're all headed in the same direction together. Because if we're not careful, you know what's coming, don't you? If you're not careful, love will tear us apart again. You all know the band, Joy. Yeah, I can't not play it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. This coming up now. Oh, wonderful. And it's just an excuse for me to play a song. But love can tear us apart. We need to look at what unites us, not the differences. And we need to forgive the speeds that we're traveling at and understand that they may be different from one business to another, from one person to another. We may be in the green side of Frederick's graph, we may be in the grey side, but we'll all get there in the end. Everything will be fine in the end. And if it isn't fine, then it isn't the end.